Hi, I'm Dr. Helen Holton and Associates, Chief Engagement Officer, and your show host for Dr. Helen Speaks, Strengths, Resilience, and Leadership. Welcome to today's show. What is self-care? We've been talking about it for the past 4 shows in this series around seasonal self-care, looking at it from various vantage points. And as we're wrapping up this series on self-care, it just really seemed appropriate to discuss self-care from the coach's view. We've had some incredible guests, and we've looked at self-care from many different angles with guests from a hospital chaplain who woke up one day and said, I'm burnt out. I got to take a break. Self-care shouldn't be that break you take in an emergency because you're just burnt out, you're fried. We heard from a Gen Xer. Now, the value of a Gen Xer is when we think about the fast-paced lives we live, it was in that generation that the internet and social media really took off. Uh-oh, there you go. We're just working overtime all the time, and there seems to be no boundaries. And then we went into a pandemic. We talked about the seasons in the life of women that call for self-care. Very important, different from the seasons of the year. We talked about creating sacred spaces to really bring self-care to life in a very personal way, and that it's something you can do anywhere and everywhere. You're the only one that really knows what it is and what it does. And so I decided to close out this series, what better way to do it than from a coach's view? Who else could I bring other than Coach Denise to sit here with me and talk about what we do in coaching women? And as leadership coaches, the greatest thing we can do in this role is to stand in the gap for leaders, especially women leaders like you, who want more for your life and your leadership. The number one goal that we show up here to do is to motivate, inspire, and help you change your reality by supporting your move forward in the pursuit of your dreams and desires. Each week, as you know, we explore topics to discover, uncover, and unpack ways to level up your leadership by leveraging your strengths, the best of who you are, helping you manage weaknesses. And we all have them, so don't fret, and build your resilience, that power that helps you persevere and push through life's distractions, detours, and derailers to your success. And so I couldn't think of a better way to do this than to spend some time in conversation with Coach Denise, my dear friend and colleague, who I think was one of my first guests on the show, so many episodes ago. And I'm just excited to be here with her talking about something that we both know is essential to leaders for their success, their resilience, their joy, peace, and happiness in life. When you talk about work-life balance, this is the place where we need to be talking about it. Mm-hmm. So Coach Denise, here we are.
Hey there. Yeah, good to be here, Dr. Helen. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on the show. And I think you are absolutely right. There is no better time than right now to start talking about, self-care and what that looks like from a leadership perspective, what that looks like from an individual perspective. And, I always like to ask my clients, how much do they value self-care and how do they define self-care? Because that's probably the best place to start, right? I mean, whether or not you value it, because we all know it's important to exercise, but it doesn't mean that we go and do it.
Exactly. Which is why we spent these past 4 episodes talking about and seasonal, whether it's spring, summer, winter, and fall, that you by intention. And self-care's got to be intentional. If you don't know what it is, how do you know if you value it?
Absolutely.
We hear those words, work-life balance, but do they really speak to what it means to intentionally carve out time and space for yourself?
Yeah.
To reflect, to recharge, to re-energize, and to get back in there better than ever.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dr. Helen. And the question becomes, what's the cost of me not doing that?
Mhm,
Right? Like you talked earlier about burnout. You
mhm.
talked a little bit about, just being stressed, not really living to your highest potential. And I think those are some of the costs that we incur when we don't take that time out to just breathe. I
Mm,
start every session with all of my clients by taking 3 breaths. We do, four, what is it, 4 seconds in and 7 seconds out. But I start every meeting like that because oftentimes my clients are coming from these very busy and demanding environments. I'm sure yours are too. And even if you're not in the workplace, even if you're just home with kids, that's enough, right? I mean, to just say, hey, I need a moment. So
yes.
just slowing down enough to recognize your breathing and
Mhm.
just find some balance for yourself is really a very easy, a very simple way to start caring about yourself and how you feel.
Yes. One of the things we talked about over this series was the seasons in a woman's life
Mhm.
and how we understand and recognize the value and importance of self-care matters with the season of life that we're in.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just going because we're after something and we don't want to hear it. We're not prepared for what it means, and it results in, as Savon Ferguson, one of our guests, talked about, well, early in my career, self-care was taking a long vacation twice a year, 10, 12 days.
Yes.
As she matured, it was like, no, I need to do something else. And that internal, that mindfulness, creating that space, whether it's with aromatherapy or scented pillows at night,
Yeah.
soaking tubs, spa days.
Yeah.
It's that intentional piece of being mindful of where you are in your life and how that adds value and longevity to your life.
Yeah.
Self care. You know, I think oftentimes when people hear the word self care, they're thinking, oh, did I get my mammogram? Did I schedule back to school appointments for my kids to make sure they're ready to go to school? Did I, whatever? And health and wellness is very important, but that's not the self care that we're talking about here. This is the self care that allows your mind to disengage,
Yeah.
to disconnect from all those things you do in life that are so important.
Hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we hear from our clients all the time. Sometimes it sounds like they're just running on that hamster wheel.
Yeah, it's hard to stop sometimes, especially with all the demands. And to your point earlier, Dr. Helen, there seems to be no lines anymore. I mean, everyone works from home, right? I mean, it's easy to go have dinner and then you find yourself back in your office, right? I mean, you do everything now in your home. Most people still are kind of coming off the quarantine mentality from, COVID. And so I think it can be really challenging, but I think if we can find ways to develop some really good habits in our lives, that will make a difference. For example, just sitting down and writing 3 things that you're grateful for.
Oh my goodness.
Starting your mornings that way or ending your evenings that way, but just being habitual about it, and just saying, I'm grateful that I've got hot running water, right? I mean, I'm
Mhm.
grateful that I have a desk that I can sit down and do my work. I'm grateful for this huge window that allows me to see the nature in front of me. Like, I think just developing small habits each and every day can really go a long way in terms of self-care and not making it something that's complicated or requires a whole lot of effort,
Mhm. Mhm.
but just doing it on a consistent basis.
So what I've heard from guests on the show is things like getting up in the morning when it's quiet and still,
Yeah.
having a
Mm,
cup of tea or a cup of coffee, not checking voicemails and text messages and emails, literally not picking up those electronic devices we seem to like be attached to,
Yeah.
can't do without them. And what that means, I know for me, I started a few years ago. Whenever I used to think, oh, at the end of the day, I'll take some time and wind down. And I flipped that because at the end of the day, I was exhausted. I wanted to just crawl into bed, watch a little news, go to sleep and wake up to do it all over again.
Yeah.
And so I started getting up earlier in the morning before I need to be present to the world and centering in gratitude. You know, it begins with, oh, thank you, God, for allowing me to wake up to a new day.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
For roof over
Meditation.
my head,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. You mentioned meditation.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't even know how many years ago it's been. I know it's been at least 5 when Oprah and Deepak Chopra
Yeah.
came together with this meditation, mindfulness kind of thing.
That's
And
the program they had, right?
yes, I tried to do it. I even bought a couple of the programs. And you know what? I would always fall asleep during the meditation. And I would feel really guilty for
Yeah.
falling asleep during the meditation. I'd start off really like, oh yeah, I'm into it. And by the time they got to that meditating music, oh, well, I guess in some respects, that was the self-care I needed,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
space to allow me just to stop, to pause, a timeout, so to speak.
Yeah. It's a shift, Dr. Helen. I think it's a shift for so many women who lead such busy lives. It's almost a luxury to, take a few minutes and meditate in the middle of the day, or take a few minutes and go for a walk, or any of those types of
Mhm.
things. But I really feel strongly that if we don't prioritize it, then we are going to suffer the results of not doing that, whether that looks like hypertension, and that runs big in our community, right? High blood pressure. Whether that looks like not paying attention to our diets, drinking enough water,
Mhm.
getting some daily exercise. It really starts with recognizing how important that is, and then listening to our bodies.
Mm,
You said you started napping when you were trying to meditate because the body needs rest. Right? I mean,
absolutely.
you feel like you're doing a disservice if you take a nap in the middle of the day. What? A nap? Are you kidding? But I have many people who have told me that they will take a 20-minute nap. They will put their heads down on their desk or get out of the office and go someplace and just sit quietly and do nothing and
Mhm.
come back so refreshed, because the body sometimes just needs to be able to recover,
Mhm.
as does
Mhm.
our mind.
Yes. I say to people all the time, rest is good medicine.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
wait, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's just a matter of you taking some time, different from being exhausted and just like falling out. I'm
Right.
talking about the intentional, I'm going to get some rest. And, little things like turning off the TV at least an hour before you're going to go to bed. I
Yeah,
listen to more people say, oh no, I go to bed with the TV on. Oh, but I have it on mute. Those rays that emit from the TV
yeah,
have been proven to actually interfere with getting to that REM sleep, that
yeah,
deep sleep that you need to re-energize and refurbish what you have taken out of you in the
yeah,
course of a day.
yeah,
And so I think it's important. Sometimes every now and then I'll come across something, some sort of, uh, for lack of a better, a devotion or something that sets the tone for when you say, I'm going to create this space to slow down.
yeah,
Maybe a little reading at night or first thing in the morning,
yeah,
uh, or a good book,
yeah,
soft music. And I love
absolutely.
now that the, music services on your phone, they didn't used to, but now many of them actually have timers. So you don't have to worry about waking up at 3 a.m. because you hear it. And it's like, what is it? It's like, oh, I fell asleep while I was listening to the music. That you can set it for 30 minutes, an hour, lay down and go to sleep to soothing music. Now they're even music of streams and brooks or chimes or things that are really helping to slow down the pace of the mind
Yeah.
that you can position yourself to sleep. I
You're
know.
right, Dr. Helen, but I just want to say that I think part of it though is there's endless things that we can all do, endless amounts of different things, habits that we've already talked about, listening to soft music, turning your TV off, breathing exercises, drinking more water, like there's endless lists. But I think the $1,000,000 question for many people out there, and probably lots who are watching us today, is how do I get started? If I've already have a busy life, I've got small children, I start working at 7 a.m. and I don't even take a lunch break because most times I'm just trying to, stay focused on my job. Like, how do I get started? What do you say to that?
How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
The other thing that we've got to let go of is that self-guilt.
Mm,
Oh, well, I did it 3 days and I was going to do it every day this week and I did. Okay, so start over.
yeah, that's right.
Okay. No one says, okay, so you didn't complete it. Start over again or pick
Yeah.
up where you left off.
Yeah.
And I think that we become, and it comes back to those inner critics that we live with, that, oh, I said I was going to do this Monday through Friday for 2 weeks. And by Wednesday, I was already out of sync. Oh, I'm just going to abandon that.
Yeah.
Start over.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is have some grace for yourself,
Absolutely.
right? Like just be patient with yourself. You know that you want to start prioritizing your own self-care and your own wellness.
Mhm.
Start small.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There are all sorts of apps. In fact, I think during the height of the pandemic, Calm or one of these gave
Yes.
like a 6 month or year free
Yeah.
just to help people calm down. I think the stresses we live with today confront us on every which way we turn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
more than anything, and I think that's where coaching comes into play. It's that accountability piece. It's that place where there's no blame or shame or um, chastisement for not doing what you said you wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's a place where you can go and say, okay, yeah, I think I will try that again. I'm
Yeah.
gonna pick up and not feel defeated and bring in awareness to the power of the naysayers that live in our minds.
Mm. Oh, yes. Dialing back those voices that tell you that you're wasting time, or you can use this time now to cook dinner, or you can use this free time now to answer more emails, right? I mean,
Oh, throw a
being
load of
able
clothes
to,
throw a load of clothes in the washing machine while you're pulling dinner
guilty.
together, and you're gonna, kill two birds with one stone. So then
Yeah.
I can do some self-care.
Yeah, yeah. Guilty is charged. And I think that that's it for all of us. But the one thing I would add too to that, Dr. Helen, is also, when you talk about coaching,
Mhm.
not everybody has the opportunity to hire an executive coach or hire a life coach. But there are all kinds of other opportunities, other things that you can do. If you're not coaching, you can find a mentor, right? You can find somebody that's trying to do some similar goals that you are in
Mhm.
terms of prioritizing self-care and hold each other accountable. And there are also some apps now that really make it affordable, like BetterUp, right? I mean, BetterUp coaching. It's an
Okay.
app. Yeah, it's pretty inexpensive. And it's those for individuals that want to get a taste of that, because sometimes it's hard to do these changes on our own.
Mhm.
And I think working with a coach, working with someone who holds you accountable can make such a huge difference. I want to say that today there's so many ways and so many different things to use as buffers,
Mhm.
buffers that get in the way of us not doing self-care,
There are
right?
two words I have for that:
Yeah.
accountability partner. And finding someone, as you were saying, we've both talked about, you and another person said, I want to exercise more, and, I'm going to go join the gym. Well, you can do that. However, you can, for lack of a better term, just covenant with someone that a dear friend, and say, hey, let's check in with each other and And I always say start small. Whatever it is you're going to do, 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Just do 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Don't rush it. It's more about consistency. What is it? How's the saying go? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you
Yeah.
want to go far, go with others.
Yeah. My favorite
To go
proverb.
far is
Yeah.
that you want to make it last. And to me, that is a big part of building resilience. It's not like you wait till you're in a crisis and say, oh, I need to be resilient. That's not how resilience shows up. Now, you can certainly be resilient without knowing that you're being resilient. However, that's not building your resilience. It's getting you out of a crisis. And once you're out of the crisis, how often do you stop and say, what did I do that helped me get there? Resilience really is developing practices, habits, and ways of being.
Yes.
That when you get in a bind, or when you get to that place where it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
You're equipped to do it, and you know how to call it up at will
Yeah.
when you need it the most. Self-care, the same thing. Put it on your calendar. Make a time, even if you can't do it, and especially when you're starting out, calendar it. Just like you do all those other important things. And this goes back to, how important are you?
Yeah. That's right.
How
Making
important are you
time.
making time for you?
Yeah.
To say no. And I say all the time, no is a complete sentence. It doesn't have to be justified, explained,
Yeah.
apologized for. No, I'm not
Yeah.
available.
Sounds simple, but it's not easy.
No, which is
And
why I
that's
go
the
back
key.
to the AP, an accountability partner.
Yeah.
Get the app.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Well, and I can tell you that for the clients who I work with that in fact do practice self-care and are beginning to create those habits for themselves, it's game changing.
Yes,
It is
absolutely.
game changing, right? I mean,
Mhm.
much more clarity of thought, feeling better as you wake up in the morning, right? Recognizing that you need time to reflect, and not only just for yourself, but also how you show up for others,
Mhm.
those who you care about, right? I mean, your
Mhm.
family members, right?
Your
I'm much
family.
kinder when I've taken a few minutes to go for a walk in the middle of the day, right?
Mhm.
I'm much happier when I've drank my water and I've had a little something to eat for lunch, right? I
Oh,
don't suffer from being hangry. So
for
I
sure.
think that it's not just, the impact that we have on ourselves, which is absolutely important, but it's also, how do we show up for those who we love? Are we showing up as our best version of ourselves?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I think that another wonderful tool for getting you in that space is journaling about what you want.
oh, yes.
You know, you can do it on your phone. I prefer writing it out. There's something about writing
Yeah,
that resonates deeper within. It's like thoughts, they come and they go. Typing it, okay, yeah, I got it down. And science has proven that when you actually put pen to paper,
yeah. Mhm,
that it sticks with you longer. And it's a wonderful tool to go back to see
yeah.
the progress you've made, how
Mhm,
you've honored those things that you said were important about your self-care. And I
yes,
think drilling the point that it's really very personal.
yeah.
It's really very personal. Doesn't mean you can't do it with other people, because I love a good spa trip with some friends, you know, to
Yeah,
sit around in it
aren't we all?
in our robes, the aromas, the pampering. Yeah.
Yeah,
However, that's not, and here's the thing, you don't have to be super rich to be able to do that or
yeah,
afford it. You
yeah,
you could get together and pitch in and have someone come and do chair massages while you sip tea and have pedicures. I don't know. There are all sorts of things you can do to
spoil yourself. But
spoil yourself.
I do,
Exactly.
I do love what you said about journaling. I think, one of the big advantages of journaling as well is the idea that you can get all of your thoughts from inside of your head out and down into paper, which I think oftentimes creates space,
Mhm.
right, for all of those recycled thoughts. What is it, Dr. Helen? Is it 66,000 thoughts a day that we have? It's
It's actually more than that. Those are the ones that, if you had to write them all down, who would ever do that? But
yeah,
it's a lot. The
yeah,
brain and the brain doesn't capture all
yeah,
those thoughts that come in. And
yeah,
so writing things down is a way to ingrain it into the reality of, you know what? Nope. I'm not getting up from this until I have done something. And even if you journal on a piece of paper, I don't know what I want to write today. If
yeah.
you sit with yourself, put a timer on and says, I'm going to write for 5 minutes, whatever thoughts come to mind. There's
Mhm.
so many ways you can take it on. Journal prompts. They're all, look at how many, you can go into a bookstore and be inundated
Yeah,
journals that you don't have to, they don't all have to be blank pieces of paper, page after page after page. Maybe there's some prompts or some themes that are going to help you pull out of you, pour out of you
yeah,
what you
yeah,
really want to do. And then when you go back and read it, and there's times I've really been like, wow, I thought that.
yeah, yeah. Or, wow, I've come a long way.
That's what I was going to say. I remember when I wrote this and it was like a far out dream that I was thinking, wouldn't I love to do X, Y, Z? And I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I wrote this down.
Yeah,
It just goes back to what I call energy
yeah,
and how you create energy to manifest the things you want for yourself and others in your life. And I love how in your program, the visioning,
oh, yeah,
and I will tell you, to this day, it became something for me, not that I didn't have it, but really committing time, focus, and energy to succinctly say what it is I want for my life.
yeah,
And you know what? I can honestly say I'm living my best life ever.
yeah,
And it's not the end because the forward progress of the things that are in the works, that are plans, are just going to take it to another level. And at the end of the day, Denise, what I know is it's really not about me. However, doing to help others, does that make sense?
yeah. No, it does make sense. I mean, I think it's all about starting with the why,
Mhm.
right? Starting with the why, really understanding how important it is to take time out for self-care, right? Starting small,
Yes.
developing habits, all of these things that we've been
Mhm.
talking about during our time together. It sounds simple, but it's not easy, but it can be done, and it's so
Yes.
worth the effort.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You know, starting out on this path, it was one that was like, oh, yes, this is something I want to do. I mean, it goes back to being in this space and place today as a show host. Can I just tell you, it started when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
It was one
Mhm.
of those dreams I just decided was never going to happen. And so I abandoned it for other things, the more corporate thing or, what have you. And then to find myself in this space and place, it was like, OMG,
Yeah.
I can't believe I reached this place and that this is what my life is become. That and I will credit Michelle Obama in becoming. What does it mean when you're really becoming who it is you want to be in life? And the reality about becoming, it's not a destination, it's a stop along the journey.
Mhm. Yeah. And what do you want to create for yourself, right?
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm,
take ownership of
absolutely.
what you want to create for yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
I always say that, you have to cultivate a life you love, whatever
Yes.
that means, whether it's cultivating work that you enjoy doing every day, whether it is being of service to your community,
Mhm.
whether it is being the best parent that you possibly can be. But what does it mean for you to cultivate a life that you love? How do you create it? And start with prioritizing self-care, because
Yeah.
that's really where it all begins.
And as we're wrapping up, I just want to say this because I think that a lot of what we want is what we put our energy towards. The things that matter most to you are the things that get your attention the most. They really house the uniqueness of who you are, the imprint that you will make on this planet and leave for others. It's the influence that you have on human beings that follow you and what you do. Your influence is really tied to your leadership, your legacy, and your life. It's like your legacy in motion. You're building it along the way. You know, it begins with you. It really does. It begins with you in your purpose, passions, and pursuit of life. And when you know what these things are, because you've stopped to pause and take time to think about them, to write them down, to vet them with yourself. And you could vet them with others, but it's really you who has to buy into your vision, your
Yes.
dreams of what you want.
Yes.
And so I'd love to, I always like to kind of leave a call to action before we end the show. And what are you willing to do today to make you a priority for self-care? That you can really go off and do and be all those things in life that you envision and dream about. What are you willing to do today to make self-care a priority for you? And so if you picked up a nugget or two to stretch you to grow a little more, take action with it. Wherever you are on your path to life and success and leadership is exactly where you're supposed to be right now.
Yeah.
And our mission as coaches are to help you move forward to what it is you really want for your life. This is Dr. Helen Speaks, Strengths, Resilience, and Leadership. And I'm so excited to be here with my dear, dear colleague, Coach Denise. Keep coming back. We'll keep showing up and join the community of Dr. Helen Speaks. We're here on the Win-Win Women TV network, Roku TV, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time and 1 p.m. Eastern time, where together we'll work with you to live your best life ever, doing what you do best every day. What do you think about that, Coach Denise?
I love it. I absolutely love it. And thank you, Dr. Helen, for helping all of us, for making such an impact in our lives, helping us to be the best version of ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you next time at Dr. Helen Speaks, Strengths, Resilience, and Leadership.